The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization Show, the home of Googleization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy shift going on in the world of business, technology, and HR. Here's your host, Ira Wolf, and co-host Keith Campagna.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ira Wolf. I'm awaiting my co-host, Keith. Hopefully he will be on the air shortly. But welcome back to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization, and to the Googleization Nation, for everybody who's part of my community. For those who aren't, and you want to get reminders about this, about updates, new announcements, special programming, please go to GoogleizationNation.com. It's free. You can subscribe. All we need is your first name and an email, and you'll be on board, and then you'll get updates for this. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Ira Wolf, and you'll get updates there. Or you can go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Success Performance Solutions. So appreciate everyone being here. We've got a great topic today. In addition to what we usually talk about, technology, pace of change, acceleration, human resources, hiring, future of work, all those sort of things. Hey, Keith, how are you?
Hey, good.
Good to see you. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is some of the consequences of that, which is burnout. And we have a burnout prevention expert, and he learned that from being a burnout survivor, former corporate guy. And his experience was a few years ago. He talks about, he actually has a book of that. It's called 369 Days, How to Survive. And throughout those 369 days, he experienced a heart attack, lost his job, lost his car, and had his house foreclosed. So, yeah, it's like, you talk about when it rains, it pours. But one of the things about Michael Levitt, who will join us shortly, is Michael, unfortunately, there's millions of people that are experiencing the same thing this year. Yeah. Some from the economy, some of the things we talk about, they didn't keep up with their skills, companies closing, fast pace of change, all that stuff we would have talked about prior to March, February. And then you throw a pandemic on top of it, and it's just exacerbated it. So we're going to talk about what you can do about it. And again, you talk about a survivor is doing quite well, and basically whether you're an individual or you're the leader of a company, and who isn't feeling pressured. It goes back to the old Network movie. That. Screaming, I just drew a blank on what his name was, but yelling out the window, I can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore.
It's really incredible to think how much more burnout can be playing a factor inside of businesses. Even if you aren't employed, I think that if you think about the differences in behavior and interaction and stress, and oh my goodness, what if you have 4 and 6-year-olds that are now living with you as you work from home in an environment where you're not comfortable with? Like, this whole encompassing element of what burnout can be, I think, is a very, very important element, because I don't know how many people realize how close they are to being burnt out. And I love that.
I mean, being stressed, stress is a normal human reaction. I mean, if we didn't have stress, we'd be dead. I mean, the reality is that's what keeps our body moving. So we always need some level of stress going on. But then there's unhealthy stress, and then there's a limit, and each of us has a different level of stress, a different baseline that we can tolerate, and then different things stress us out. So you put all those things together, and not everybody who's stressed out is burnt out. Not everybody, but some people who are burnt out probably are depressed. I mean, it's actually, I won't say more serious than burned out, but those are all the things we're going to be talking about Michael with, and again, he's got it. I won't say under control, but he understands the scope of this, and our goal today is to help you get to the future of work. I mean, we can talk about here's what it's going to be like, and here's what you have to do to change. But if you're burnt out and depressed, you're not getting there. It's as simple as that. I don't get technology can't reduce that part.
At the risk of plugging my own company, that's precisely why I created Life Work Integration. My value prop, if you would. I know I talk a lot about the ROI shop, but truth is that my passion project is Life Work Integration. And my goal is to help people turn stress into a competitive advantage. I mean, the best metaphor I could offer is that music, as pleasant as it may sound in an opera or a classical symphony, every piece of instrument has been pulled and stretched and really totally torn and twisted so that it can produce the right sound. And then you have all the people that move within that orchestra that are training and grinding away and hurting their knuckles and their fingers and all of their throat, all of these things. The right stress produces amazing things. It's when we have the wrong kind of stress, which we're going to talk about, that really brings you down.
But even the right stress, I mean, as the example is, I can't think, again, people who, Eddie Van Halen, who just died, they said, I mean, he obviously had a lot of other issues going on. But because of how he played the guitar, he literally developed the sixth digit on his one hand. Now, whether that's healthy or not, we can go from there. But you think about ballet. I mean, one of the more, I'm not a ballet person, but when you think about the art with that, and then you find the stress, the physical, mental, emotional stress of ballerinas, of people who live in that world. So even though while that's helping individuals, other people meditate and calm down and observe the beauty and maybe relaxing, the people that are doing it are pretty stressed out.
Absolutely.
It's pretty tragic. So you got a lot of things going on. We're going to talk at the end of the show about that. Anything else big, exciting in
funny enough,
we won't talk about the election, but
I mean, all things considered, let's wait for me to the end here because I think we're right on time to bring them in after your updates.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to bring on Michael Levitt. He is the founder of Breakfast Leadership. He's written a few books. The one that he highlighted to me and which caught my attention was 369 Days, How to Survive. And Michael, welcome to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization.
Great to be with you today. Thank you so much.
So you had quite a journey. I don't know how long ago that was, but you look like you're a relatively young guy. I know you're younger than me. But you had, I think I was right on the details. You experienced a heart attack, lost your job, lost your car, and had your house. I don't know if it had officially foreclosed or you just got the notices, but all within 1 year. Which is correct. Fortunately, it didn't happen the year of COVID, but that got it when the tipping point. But.
No, it took place. It started off in 2009 and wrapped up in 2010. So it happened during the Great Recession. Yeah. So in where I was at, I was in Windsor, Ontario, across the border from Detroit. And if we all remember, the auto sector was about an inch away from being dead in the United States. So there wasn't a lot of work around after I lost my job after the cardiac event. So it required me to do a lot of job searches and going on interviews. I kind of felt like the Buffalo Bills because I kept coming up second on interviews. And so I can relate with the Bills and their fans.
Bills. So
that's exactly. It was a little while ago that they were losing to Dallas and everybody else, but it was I was getting frustrated, but finally I ended up finding a role in Toronto, which required a relocation, and leaving a community of around 250,000 to the Greater Toronto area, which has a little over 7 million. Slight adjustment in commute time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that journey. Obviously, those things were happening. You're caught up in the moment. Mm-hmm. When did you recognize that you were burnt out? That the world was collapsing around you? I mean, that had to be in your own. That had to be an own personal journey. So what was that? What was that like? Because I'm sure there are, as I said, millions of people that are probably in the same boat as you are.
Yeah, what happened to me was in 2007, I was brought on as ironically, a healthcare executive for a startup healthcare organization. And I was working from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week, pretty much for 2 years. It was a startup. And for many people that are launching their own business, yes, there is some long hours. However, you still need to take breaks. And I didn't. And I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't getting proper sleep. I just wasn't living my life as well. When I realized that I was burned out was actually when the cardiologist is telling me in the hospital that I was very fortunate to be alive. Because the heart attack that I had 2 blockages in my left anterior descending artery, which people refer to that artery as the widowmaker. Normally, if you've got blockages in that artery and you have a heart attack, you don't survive. Here we are in 2020. I've survived, thankfully. But it's funny, one of the things you mentioned on the onset is my experiences back then. I see a lot right now with a lot of people, and it scares me because burnout is something you do not want to flirt with. It can kill you. If it's severe enough, and if you don't address it and get ahead of it, it can be really problematic. Now, unfortunately for me, and this is the case with a lot of people, they don't recognize that they're burned out because they don't understand the signs of burnout and what to look for. They just feel fatigued, worn out, stressed, maybe numb. They might feel just numb to the world and not motivated to do anything. And those are warning signs as well.
So there's 2 questions that are in my mind, and these are, and I'll probably lead into what you're going to talk about. One is, how do I recognize, or how would one recognize, like, mild case of burnout from serious, because we rationalize, we're human beings. Mm-hmm. Like, well, everybody's experiencing it. It's a tough year, and people try to rescue you. Is, hey, you've had a heart attack, you lost your job. No wonder, it's okay. You'll get through it. So it's a fine balancing act. So that may be the second part of the question. The first part is what are the signs of burnout? How do I know other than just being stressed out?
The common signs of burnout is if over a prolonged period of time, you're not sleeping well. So you're not getting that restful sleep, which is really problematic from a mental and physical health standpoint, because no matter how healthy we live our lives, we still do damage to our bodies on a daily basis, whether it's the food we consume, the air we breathe, the content we consume on the news. There's a lot of negativity in the world. So if you consume that, it weighs on you and you're processing it, and it causes stress. When you sleep and you get good sleep, your body can start repairing that damage that the stress has done. If you don't get good sleep, then today's damage gets piled on to tomorrow's damage, and then the next day and the next day, and then you get clogged arteries like I had. Another sign of it is if you're more irritable than you normally are. Now, you might be just an irritable person by nature, or you could be really jovial. But if you notice that you're more irritable with people, whether it's your loved ones, your kids, your bosses, you're short-fused for some reason, that's a big sign. A big sign for me that I completely ignored was a lack of motivation. And I'm not talking about, it's Monday morning, I got to drag into work, I'm tired. No, this is motivation to do things that you really enjoy doing. At the time when I was down in the Windsor area, I was a season ticket holder for the Detroit Tigers. This was during the time when they were going to the World Series and not horrible like they are right now. I was at the game when Magglio Ordonez hit the home run to put them into the World Series. And of course, they lost to the Cardinals in 2006. But that's during that period of time, that's when my burnout started going. And by late 2008, I quit going to the games. I've loved baseball since the 70s. My first career in public accounting was because of baseball cards, because I was intrigued on how they figured out the ERA and batting average on people. So Jerry Royce was the first baseball card I got from a 1977 Topps card. I have that card. So it's one of those things that it was important to me. I stopped going to the games. Wow. And that is a warning sign. When you stop doing things that you love doing because you're tired or you're just not motivated to do it, that's a real big sign. And another one I see a lot, especially in the workplace, is if you start making a lot more mistakes than you normally do, or you're forgetful, you feel in a daze where you're like, I don't remember where I put my keys, or I don't remember where I parked. And this is something that's just ongoing, where it just starts getting really problematic. And so those are some common signs that I see with people that are burned out.
Michael, it's very, I think, serendipitous or worthwhile for me to be talking to you about this with Ira, because Ira was sitting next to me. This is when him and I met. My first approach to telling the world about what I call life-work integration, which is the opposite of work-life balance, was when Ira and I first met years ago. And what I experienced was my ex-wife, my now ex-wife, moved out, and I was in this job that I just was not enjoying. The people I worked for were not my kind of people. I had to make career changes to be around my children more. And I was visiting a whole lot of companies. And when I tell you 9 out of 10 people I met with, whether they were the business owner or the warehouse manager or someone in between or wherever, most people seemed like what you described. They were tired. They didn't really care about whether or not things were good. There was just this lack of pure appreciation. And while I was certainly getting beat up on the work side of things, I was much more capable. I was learning things on my own, which is what led me down my path to rehabilitate. But I didn't have any kind of health issues or anything like that. It was just my pure observation of how many people, maybe now you might be able to add to this, but how many people do you think are on their way to some variety of burnout, or do you think they've already gotten there?
Well, Monster.com just did a survey a couple of months ago that indicated that of the people they surveyed, 69% of workers identified as being burned out.
Sure.
So 7 out of 10. 69%. So 7 out of 10 people in your organization right now, if those statistics are correct, are burned out or approaching burnout. Yeah. And it's a huge, I like to say it's a pandemic within a pandemic. It's a huge problem. And with COVID-19 and people working from home and working remotely, and so many people not ever doing that before. I mean, that was a big learning curve for a lot of people. And as you alluded to before, some of them may have their partners or spouses with them, their kids. Congratulations, you're a full-time school teacher now too.
Right.
You throw all those things into the mix. And oh, by the way, school is the same time as work. And we forgot that, but now we're like, oh, wait, how do I teach my kids, be on the Zoom call for their class, but then also use that same computer to be on my Zoom meeting at 1 o'clock to go over Q4 deliverables? How's this all going to work? And juggling all of that. And we've lost the art form of the commute. And I know a lot of people hated their commute as much as they hated their job, but we found, and NordVPN did a study earlier this year that indicated Americans on average are working 20% more hours than they did before the pandemic. And when I first heard that stat, I kind of laughed and said, hey, somebody finally found that 27-hour clock we've been looking for. Awesome. But they traded their commute time to work. So instead of getting up and getting ready and going to work, they get up and they start working, and they don't have the visual cues to take breaks. So they're not really taking breaks. They're sitting on their couch or at the dining room table or somewhere else and working and shifting from, okay, to school, do this, meeting, Zoom meeting, this. And next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock at night. They haven't eaten dinner yet. They really haven't taken any breaks. And they're doing this day after day. And it's piling up and causing a lot of stress. Not only it's going to be amazing to see how many people need physiotherapy because they're not working in ergonomic settings in their home, to just the stress of everything else that's going on. And one of the key things with burnout is you feel that stress is coming at you from every angle. No situation and not good. Of course, tossing in a pandemic, we don't know when this thing's going to end. In the U.S., there apparently is an election coming, so there's stress around that. Doesn't matter which political party you affiliate with. It's a stressful period of time right now. And then work in all the dynamics of what's been going on for the last 7 months, which feels like 7 centuries, it's really creating a lot of havoc. And unfortunately, people aren't spending the right amount of time to take care of themselves first. And I think that's, to give a clue as to what you can do with burnout is you got to take care of yourself first. And it's not just yoga and meditation, although if you want to do that and it helps you, by all means do it. But there's other things that people aren't doing right now that they really should. And it would really help ease this burnout situation that we're facing. So,
Michael, it's interesting because you talked about the scenario of assuming you had a job. Now we got the 27-hour workday, or I've got the 30-hour workday and an 8-day a week. Which Keith knows. But I love what I do. I mean, half the time people are saying, why are you working so hard? And to me, it's a lot of it's hobby. A lot of it's just creating and writing and doing things. But, we've got a life as well. But one of the things that happens is there's a lot of people that don't have work. So they're getting up and they've got to take care of their kids. Uh-huh. They've got to teach. They've got to do the other tasks. They may be a caregiver. They may have parents. They're doing all these things. And on top of that, don't have the job.
Right.
And may not have the health. So what are some of the things how do you help people? I mean, obviously, it's good to recognize that we got the problem. So we now recognize that most of us recognize that COVID is a problem.
Right.
Okay. But what do we do about it? So
the key things is one, and I alluded to it before, is you have to take care of self-care. And a lot of times people hear self-care, they think, okay, Yoda. Yeah.
Yoda too.
Oh, yes, he would guide us. Yoga, meditation, those are all good. But I define self-care as doing things in life that you enjoy doing that bring you happiness and fulfillment and joy in your life. For example, I live really close to a nature trail, so I try nice ravine, and sometimes there's ducks there, and I feed them duck food. I went to a pet food store and say, what can I safely feed these wild ducks that won't harm them? And they said, feed them this. So I keep a bag with me. If I see them there, I'm feeding them. I did that as a kid too. So it's a kind of a return. Enjoy that. It doesn't cost me anything other than maybe a half an hour of my time. And when people are burned out, they stop doing things that they enjoy. Even during this pandemic right now, there are still things that we can do, whether it's going for a walk, for a drive. In wherever you happen to live, you may still be able to, go have coffee with a friend. Obviously, maintain physical distancing and all that good stuff, but don't put those things to the side. Schedule those things first. And I think that's a big problem I see. No, schedule that first, because work will find time on your calendar. I guarantee it. Work will find the normal day-to-day routines that we're all responsible for. Those will fill up your days pretty quick. So you need to figure out when you're going to do something and schedule it as if it's the most important meeting you've ever had with your boss, because in life, the boss of your life is you, and don't delegate that. You need to take care of yourself first. I alluded to the sleep. Get the right amount of sleep. Make sure that your room temperature is optimal for you. If you sleep with someone, it is statistically impossible for you to agree on the room temperature. So you're going to have to negotiate what that temperature is. But the right all of those things squared away. Keep the smartphone and the television out of the bedroom, please, because blue glasses to kind of cut on the lights, it's still tricking your brain to say, hey, it's light out, I have to stay awake. So get those completely dark, invest in a sleep mask. You'll be able to sleep better. It takes a while to get used to if you're not used to wearing one, but once again, it gives your body that ability to repair the damage we do to ourselves. And then secondly, I know that this is probably repeating from what a lot of people say, but be more active and eat better. I always recommend people to work with a nutritionist and a dietitian to find out of food intolerances. And it's good to find the foods that work best for you to give you the natural energy that you need to be able to feel healthy. Because if you feel good and you're not, bogged down by, gut problems and things like that, which can lead to stressful problems as well. If you're feeling good and your body's processing food the way it should, that gives you a lot of opportunities to help keep your stress at bay and be aware of how you feel. And one of the things that my physician told me shortly after my cardiac event was, you're going to be more in tune with from time to time. So,
Michael, we're just about ready to take a break here. But again, really insightful and helpful. As I'm going through there, I'm thinking about different chapters in my life when, we could have called it burnout. And then there's other parts that I did everything that I wasn't supposed to do, but I felt that I was, I was riding high. So, was living on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. But I couldn't wait to get up in the next morning. It was part of it is I didn't like to sleep because I enjoyed what I was doing. So I get, sometimes it's taking, when you went through the list of symptoms, sometimes it took me back to my first years in dental school, which we took with medical students. And they listed all the symptoms from every disease, and all of a sudden you had everyone. So it's not that everybody is burnt out. I mean, obviously there's sort of physical signs and mental signs and emotional signs of burnout. And just because you have some of these symptoms does not, eventually it catches up. Obviously, if you're running on, I now couldn't run on 4 or 5 hours of sleep 10 years later, but 10 years ago it was fine. So obviously our bodies take a toll, on that at some point. But we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show. I'm here with my co-host Keith Campagna. I'm Ira Wolf, and our guest today is Michael Levitt, who wrote a book, 369 Days, How to Survive. We will be right back in just about a minute and a half. Hiring top talent shouldn't be left up to the roll of the dice. And yet, that's exactly what many organizations do. They roll the dice, cross their fingers, and pray for a better outcome. Hiring the right employees the first time is much too important and way too costly to leave to a game of chance. Your employees and your customers deserve better. For 25 years, Success Performance Solution has been helping small and medium-sized businesses hire smarter. They offer pre-employment and leadership assessments from typing and data entry to C-suite competence. Whether it's production, sales, healthcare, call centers, or management, Success Performance Solutions can help. Visit their website at www.successperformancesolutions.com to schedule a free demo or call 800-803-4303. Hey, welcome back to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show. I'm Ira Wolf, here with Keith Campagna, my co-host, and Michael Levitt, the author of 369 Days and a burnout survivor and a prevention specialist, I guess is, I'm not sure what the correct term is. We had a boatload of comments. Obviously, I expected that people would be interested in burnout. So one of the questions is, and I thought this was interesting, how fast can you make changes to avoid, crashing?
Actually, the changes can happen pretty quickly, by implementing better sleep habits, eating healthier, getting more activity in your life, boundaries around your time. I think that's a big thing that we didn't really touch on, is making sure that you schedule your days the best that you can. I use a digital calendar. People can use paper calendars as well, but I tell people that self-care that we all need to schedule on the calendar. One of the key things you can do as well is color code it. And for the self-care, use your favorite color. And the reason why I ask you to do that is because our brains are used to seeing our favorite color. So when you look back over the last week or the last month or the last quarter, if you don't see enough of your favorite color, that's a warning sign that you're not spending enough time on taking care of yourself. So you can stop the burnout pretty quickly. The deeper work, however, is figuring out why you burned out in the first place. What were the behaviors, your thoughts, your habits that led you into this burnout situation that so many people are facing?
Yeah, I think it's fundamentally, Michael, the awareness needs to take place first. I need to understand that I'm not happy. So what is it that I could be doing differently? For me, it was focus on my kids, right? It was get fresh air. It was minimize the distractions. And all of these things are habits that take a little bit of time. But the biggest habit that helped me personally, and I'm curious to get your feedback, is self-forgiveness, patience, those kind of soft skills, Ira, that we talk about in an organization, right? You know, it's those recognizing that maybe right now I actually feel like I'm stressed. So maybe I'm just going to step away from the work, or I'm going to take a quick 5-minute walk to not yell at my significant other or a coworker, little things like that. But I think for me, and for what I've seen out there, it starts with up here.
I completely agree. You have to love yourself, because you don't spend any more time with anybody else on the planet except yourself. And you have to be non-judgmental for past decisions or decisions you've made. They were the best decisions at the time. You know, they seemed like the right idea, and maybe it didn't work out well. And that's what life's all about, is we make choices. Some work out well, some are a little bit more challenging, but you have to really love yourself first. And then I love what you said about, you know, taking stock and doing a check-in. And this is something I do with myself all the time. And it ties in with that calendar thing of making sure I see a lot of my favorite color on my calendar. Every day I look and I check and I go, okay, how am I doing today? It's like when you ask somebody, how are you doing today? I'm asking myself, you know, what am I feeling right now? How do I feel physically? Am I feeling any anxiety or stress? Do I feel down about anything? Am I happy about how today went? What's going on? How's my day look? Did I overcommit myself today? Is there anything that I can move potentially? And because we are in control of how we spend our time, and it's doing those daily check-ins really helps. And I'm a big fan of journaling as well. And I highly recommend people not only journal how their days are going, but utilize a food journal as well. And the reason for that is, if you document how you're feeling on every day and you look at your food, that's where you could discover some food intolerance. It's like, well, I don't feel really good. Okay, what did I eat this week? And then you look at the menu that you had, and you're like, okay, maybe something here. I mean, some of it's obvious. If, for example, if your diet this week consisted of talking into a microphone, driving around the corner and paying and getting a brown bag, just saying that might impact your well-being if that's, you know, the prolonged diet choice for you. I'm not knocking those things. Moderation is best in anything you do. But when I had my cardiac event, I mean, that was my diet choice: breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a long time. And obviously that contributed to my poor health and led to my worst case scenarios.
You know, there's, as I'm listening to you, you know, and one is, you know, as a professional, you had a career, you know, there's obviously a lot of people that are really challenged by this. Right. I mean, they're literally wondering, they can't afford the brown bag. They can't afford to go down and even buy that. And they've got kids and everything else to worry about. So there's different levels of stress. But what I like about what you said was, even as simple as color coding a paper calendar, even if it's a reminder just to take a 15-minute break, to go for a walk, to go down and feed the ducks, you know, that's really important. And you know, one of the things with COVID is we were pretty avid gym goers. So every day it was like I forced that. That was the end of my day. So, you know, we'd get up and we'd go down to Planet Fitness. And obviously that's been disrupted and we've opted not to go back. But I replaced that with an hour walk. You know, I go out for 3-4. And, you know, it's been nice. I don't know what will happen in the winter. But basically up to this point is going, you know, having that walk has really been refreshing. It really has. And again, it's not the same level of exercise, but it's different. But even when I went to the gym, it was a 15-minute drive down, 15-minute drive back. And then it was like, okay, how long are we going to stay there? And you go from machine to machine. It wasn't necessarily relaxing. Now I just put on a headset and walk out for an hour. So.
Yeah, you know, it's good that you're doing that activity. And the thing with the winter as well, and like masks or hate masks, it's been cool a couple days here. And, I go out to walk my dog. And that's another thing, too. If you have a dog, you get built-in exercise. You have to walk. But what I found was on a cooler morning when I was walking the dog, I had my mask on and, I could feel the cool air around my eyes, but my face was comfortable. And I'm thinking, this actually may come in really handy in the wintertime as far as just keeping my face warm. I'm like, why didn't I think about wearing a mask before? Because I was always that I have the great jacket, keep warm and all of that, but my face would always get cold unless I had a scarf or something. Like, well, now I've got this safety device that we're all using right now. So it's kind of a side bonus effect, if anything, for this. But yeah, doing the activity and one of the things too, where a lot of people lost it, like, so for example, you quit going to the gym because they were closed. A lot of people, because they're not commuting to work anymore, they're not getting in their car. They're not walking from their car to the parking lot, walking around their office. They're at home, and most homes are not the size of an office. So the number of steps you're getting in a day has dramatically decreased, unfortunately. And a colleague that I interviewed on my show the other day said, yeah, I got COVID-20. And I'm like, what's COVID-20? It's like, I put on 20 pounds during COVID-19. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's what that was. So it's, a lot of people have been in that as well. So it's just getting active, and eating properly and maintaining that energy. So your body doesn't have to use its energy to address the extra weight. It can be used to address and fight off the stress, and prolonged stress, unfortunately, leads to burnout.
So, okay, there you go.
I was going to say, for everyone who's listening in the chat room, please take note that some of the most impactful things you can do to offset a potential burnout are free. They require no commitment to you, no subscription model, no membership. They're free. YouTube, read Michael's book. That might cost you a couple bucks. I'm sure it's worth it, right, Michael? But at the end of the day, the simple steps that make huge differences are all free. Breathing, walking. What I miss, Michael?
Eating the right food for you, sleeping, having boundaries around what you consume. And that includes the negativity of the news. I'm not telling people to stay in a cave and ignore what's going on in the world, but limit your consumption of it, because the negativity weighs on us and it gives us stressful feelings because we don't like being stressed in the anxiety and uncertainty and everything else that's going on. With the election, for example, you can go on a news feeder and check in once a day and say, okay, what's going on with this, or what are the COVID cases in my community today? You can peek in and look, but you don't have to sit there and consume 4 hours of the nightly news every night, because again, it's just constant negativity. And so if you establish boundaries around what you consume and how much you consume, whether it's food or news or information or content, if you can control that, you'll feel better because you're controlling what you consume. And it's such a big boundary to establish, and it really helps. And again, that doesn't cost you anything.
Michael, I don't know if you can teach a 97-year-old anything, or if my mother's even listening. But she consumes CNN 24/7.
Yeah. My parents, unfortunately, my dad passed earlier this year, but my mom doesn't watch as much of the news as my dad did. But yeah, they were constantly on the news, and in a surreal sort of way, and I'm not saying I'm happy my dad's gone, but I'm relieved that he doesn't have to go through what's going on right now, because he would not deal with it very well. So I completely understand those news junkies that just love watching the news to get information, but too much of something is not good, unfortunately.
Michael, I know you have a group called Breakfast Leadership. You can quickly tell us a little bit about that, because we kind of wrap up, and then how people can get a hold of you.
Yep. Launched the Breakfast Leadership Network, again, to address the burnout situation, work with organizations and individuals on burnout prevention. Unfortunately, ends up being burnout recovery in many cases. My podcast shows, the Breakfast Leadership Show, talk to thought leaders around the globe regarding business, small business, their burnout journey if they had it, and how to help organizations and entrepreneurs go to the next level and make the steps and avoid a lot of the missteps that so many of us have encountered. I love the work that I do, and majority of the time, is either working on my podcast, or I'm doing a ton of speaking events this year, albeit all virtual. So my luggage misses me, because normally I would be at conferences and speaking around the globe. But thankfully, I get to do it from the comfort of my home office, and I get to speak and share this burnout journey that I had, as well as giving people hope that if you are burned out, you can recover from it, and you can learn some free techniques, quite frankly, that can help prevent it from happening again. Because it breaks my heart when I hear people say, I've been burned out a few times. Well, I was burned out once and it nearly killed me, so I don't want to go anywhere near burnout again. So that's why I share what I do. That's why I made it my vocation, because I don't want to see people go through, the experiences that I faced, unfortunately.
How can they connect with you? How can they find out about all this?
Best way is go to breakfastleadership.com. I'm on all the social media channels under the letter B and then Fast Leadership. Don't put that on a license plate. And then also hashtag Breakfast Leadership. You'll find me on all the other places. My email is michael@breakfastleadership.com. Drop me a line. More than happy to have a conversation, guide you, send you resources, or point you in whatever direction I can to help people get past this burnout.
And your book 369 is unavailable on Amazon, I assume.
Yep, that's on Amazon. I've got a new book coming out. I'm just waiting back from my publisher to get the final manuscript ready to get it to the print house to get printed. It's a book. The title of it's Burnout Proof, and it's a full book on burnout. 369 talks about my burnout journey. Burnout Proof talks about the things that we talked about today, including a new chapter that I added on working from home burnout, which is such a huge challenge for people. So I'm hoping to get that back and out into the wild. It's probably going to be, or late winter 2021, depending on timing, but be sure to let you know when that's out there.
Oh, I'd love to get you back on, because this isn't going away. I'm sure we'll be having a continuous conversation, but great tips. Great that you're so healthy. You found your sweet spot, and we'll definitely need to continue the conversation. Also want to talk to you about a new venture that I'm involved with is the adaptability quotient. So it's not only helping people cut back, but what can they do to feel better about themselves going forward. So
that's awesome. No, I look forward to our continuing conversations.
Okay. Be well. Stay safe.
You, Michael.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Take care. Cheers.
Congrats. Cheers.
You.
That was a good one.
I tell you, there's so much to unravel with this topic, because A, it's fixable. B, it's free to do. C, the content is everywhere. Just you've seen me in my keynotes. You've seen me talk about this time and time again. It's 2020. The past methodologies and mindset of just dealing with life as it comes at you in a negative way, or letting it roll over you, it doesn't have to be like that anymore. And I think that if hopefully people follow what Michael's saying, follow what other people are saying, there's a movement in general that's out there to help people avoid burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. And good. We had a lot of activity on the chat today. Hopefully a lot of people listening. Obviously a lot of people need Michael and you to help them. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So just a couple things. This, not ironically, coincidentally, happens to be the first show of our third year. 2 years ago, we launched it, so we're in season 3. But some changes are in place because things evolved. 2020. So first year you were job fight. Second year you were figuring out what you were going to do, and now it's ROI shop and life work integration. A lot of things going on. So not that this is your last visit to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. We'll have you back as occasionally, but you won't be on the side. You won't be next to me, or you won't be on the screen next to me on a regular basis moving forward. And but it's been fun. I mean, we've had. I was going to go back, look at some of the favorite shows, but we've had so many really, really good ones. And the last couple of weeks have just been phenomenal.
It is bittersweet. I'm forever indebted to you for tapping me on the shoulder to sit next to you these last 2 years. But the truth of the matter is, I've got to allocate in other directions, and I'm sure the show will be fine. But there's so much more to come, and there's so many unlimited possibilities of the way that people can leverage the guests and the content on this show so that they can not only make themselves better, but they can make their businesses better and their companies and their teams better.
Yeah. So, and real quick, I mean, there's a whole lot of activity going on right now. It's like, apparently you're the popular one here because it's like, hey, where are you going? Why are you leaving? You know, are you moving on to something new? So quickly, what's just share people where they can continue to get a hold of you and what you're doing.
Yeah, no, the truth of the matter is I've been blessed to become part of the ROI shop in a very big way. You know, we are a startup and we are blowing up. So I have to put as much time as I can into it. That includes Salescast, which is a modern, smaller model of a podcast. But you can always, for those of you that are interested in following me, I will always be on LinkedIn until the day I retire. You know, there's Salescast. So really the number one way to find me is to go to LinkedIn, or you could reach out to me. I'm sure if anyone ever needs me through Ira, you can get me there too. But yeah, it's just exciting times. There's no looking back. It's just a lot of positive stuff going forward. And I'm going to try to turn a software company into a huge global brand. So wish me luck. It's going to be good. Absolutely.
And again, I think that's an important message for everything that we're talking about, because, you know, certainly 2019, you know, as a father of two, losing your job, figuring out what you want to do, have this dream to start this other business, all of a sudden it's all, you know, as they say, the shift hit the plan last year. And then here you are starting a new business, and then the shift hit the plan with COVID.
So, and you know, the reward for me, Ira, is how our guests have validated this. You know, I was talking to someone who was interested in putting me in front of a bunch of other people, and they asked me about like the skill sets that I can offer. And I really don't know how I could teach anybody this more so than just share the story. And that made me realize that if I had the time, I could go back through all of the clips that we've had and literally narrate the story of life-work integration, because it happened as we started. And then you saw the JobVite experience. You know, they became our first sponsor. And then moving into my own, you know, it's just really wild to see that if you do listen to the show and you do the homework, you can, in fact, make the most out of the life you want. So again, I can't describe how grateful I am.
So this is the final question that was put up. Is it a time issue? And it probably relates to our topic today about burnout. And, you know, certainly there's only X amount of hours in a day, right?
Right. Well, and that's it. You know, at the end of the day, when, you know, it's me and the two co-founders, we're blowing up the company. We're scaling, as it turns out. While COVID certainly did a lot of harm to a lot of people, it actually could have benefited a lot of people as well, because now our entire business model literally caters to the entire sales organizations of the world. So there's just that much more activity. And the smart, you know, one of the pieces of advice I got was, if you want to make a sculptor, you don't add bricks to it, you chisel away. And so as an entrepreneur, I have to focus on the things that I need to focus on. Unfortunately, I can't spend the time doing this.
Well, you and I were synonymous with Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. It'll probably always be that way. Obviously, you're welcome back, you know, anytime. I know you're a couple of weeks from now, you're scheduled back when Torrin Ellis, big day for that. And again, any other time, just reach out. We'll get you on. Any new and exciting things going on in your life, we'll come in and talk about it. So,
excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Our listeners, not our readership necessarily, but our listeners, our viewers, our downloads, they keep going up and up and up. We keep getting better and better guests, you know, because of that. So it just keeps feeding upon itself. So really do appreciate everybody being here. Now that we are live on YouTube and Facebook, you can subscribe to those, get reminders every week. So each week, if you subscribe to my Facebook page at facebook.com/Success Performance Solutions or youtube.com/Ira Wolf, just subscribe, and then you'll get a little reminder on your phone or your desktop, however you want, when we go live here. And or you can w4cy.com. You can just go up there every week and click on the button and watch us live on video or listen audio. I want to thank Success Performance Solutions for being a sponsor. We still have some openings for some additional sponsors this year. You can catch any of our replay now on Facebook, YouTube, Amazon. We are now on Apple, Google Play. I know Google Play is changing a little bit. They changed the name, but I think it's Google Podcasts now. And then iHeart and Spotify and
Facebook. Did we say Facebook?
Yes, Facebook in the beginning. So yeah, there's quite a few. So appreciate everybody listening here. Not many excuses anymore to not get a hold of the shows or the replays, watching it live or otherwise. So until next week, next episode of Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization. And for the last time, this is Ira Wolf and Keith Compagna, my co-host. Don't let the shift hit your plans.
Cheers.